Hello everyone, I Ria Pahuja from Economic Times CIO welcome you all to another webinar on secure remote access to ensure business continuity. Workforce mobility is need of the hour as it offers agility in times of uncertainty. However, with flexibility comes complexities. Some of these complexities and security challenges could have a severe impact on business continuity. As employees try to connect to your enterprise network using insecure connections or potentially compromised endpoints, it is imperative for organizations to understand such threats and take necessary actions to prevent and mitigate them. In this webinar today, Tata Communications and Zscaler will enable us to create effective business continuity plans for this pandemic and prepare for a multi-layered approach to security with tightly integrated technology and human expertise. Today, our main discussion points will be the challenges faced by enterprise as a result of remote workforce, planning business continuity in the times of a pandemic, achieving end-to-end visibility into endpoint activity on your network, need for providing cybersecurity coverage 24/7 throughout the year and how to achieve it, and for sure, responding to security incidents through automation to improve response time. For this very topical discussion, we have with us amazing set of speakers. We have Sridhar, Vice President, Cloud and Security Services, Tata Communications, and Mr. Sudeep Banerjee, Director, Transformation Strategy, Asia Pacific and Japan, Zscaler. A very warm welcome, speakers.
Thank you, Ria.
Sridhar heads the managed services business of cloud, hosting, and security for Tata Communications. He has been in the entire IT industry for nearly 30 years now and has held several leadership roles in blue chip companies such as Dell, IBM, Intel, and ETCIO. While Mr. Sudeep Banerjee brings us to the table domain expertise in BFSI industry with experience in driving digital transformation programs, public cloud SaaS adoptions, and re-architecturing network infrastructure for enhanced user productivity with improved security posture. Before we go ahead with our discussion today, I would like to inform our attendees to please drop in their doubts and queries in the box provided. We will be taking all of your questions in the end of the session in Q&A round. I now request our first speaker of the session, Mr. Sudeep Banerjee, to please take this forward. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Ria. Uh, I hope my screen is visible and I'm audible to the audience.
Yes, sir, you are.
Okay, great. All right. So first of all, very good afternoon to you all who have taken the pains to take time out of your busy days to come and listen to us on this very topical discussion. I think we are seeing absolutely unprecedented times. The first time ever in each of our career. Uh, Large companies, mid-sized companies, companies of all shapes and sizes, to make business go on and to continue with their day-to-day operations, they have had to send hordes of their employees out of offices and to work from home. Like India is on a 21-day lockdown at this point in time. So is the world around us, be it Asia, be it Europe, certain parts of US and whatnot. So in these unprecedented times, how do we make business run and how do we make employees productive from their home bases? To talk about that, I am very happy to be joining along with Sridhar, who's our partner in Tata Communications on this particular part. So the key issues that we are going to talk about today, for example, like we are all saying work from home, but what exactly constitutes work from home for any employee organization, be a C-level executive to managers having to manage their own teams, down to individual contributors, who have to run day-to-day operations and tasks. It's a Herculean challenge to continue business as usual. So what exactly we mean by work from home? Secondly, what are the current challenges? We will, delve into topics, for example, VPN. The virtual private networks have been in existence since the mid 90s and has been the way for remote users, to come and access company applications inside the data center, or maybe even applications which have moved to public cloud. Now, these technology and the way it has been provisioned for company that was designed and capacitized for a workforce which could be possibly 10% or 20% of the overall workforce. But today, by sending almost 100% of employees back to home, there's a huge load on the traditional VPN infrastructure to scale and to accommodate this huge onrush of user traffic. So how are companies reacting to this? And we'll also delve on the area of cyber threats. The bad actors, cyber criminals, nation state actors, they actually wait for such kind of opportunities and pounce upon them. We run a division called Threat Labs inside Zscaler, which looks into all the emerging, kind of threats. For example, newly created domains, newly created applications around the theme of coronavirus, and we have unmasked quite a few of them, which are trying very novel ways for you to click on a link, to go to a site, or to download an app, and thereby you'll get infected. Your machines get infected, and when you bring that infected machine back to the office network where office resumes, there's a chance for that particular threat to spread all through the enterprise network. What is our role? So Zscaler, for those of you who are not aware of this company, we have been in existence for the past about 10, 12 years now. And I don't know how, but somehow we were kind of designed and built for almost days like this. We have been designing cloud security solutions to enable remote work, and we have kind of done it at scale. Zscaler runs a global cloud today with about 150 data centers all around the world, so that we try to be close geographically to users and give them very fast and secure access to their applications. Moving on, there's a quick poll. So Ria, why don't you take over?
Sure, sir. For this very first poll question, we ask our attendees what percentage of your workforce is working from home at present. The options are below 25%, 25 to 50%, 50 to 75, and above 75%. Attendees have quick 20 seconds to answer the question. So we have the results with us. 11% of our attendees say below 25%, 8% go with 25 to 50%, 22% say 50 to 75%, and 58% say above 75%.
Wow, these are really telling statistics. I will tell you, what we are seeing because Zscaler sees internet traffic from enterprises, around 4,000 odd enterprises all around the world. And believe me or not, enterprises from India, we are seeing has the maximum work from home traffic, which is about 70%. This is almost twice of that of US, about 35%, while what we are seeing from the likes of China is about 40-45%. So I think PM Modi's effort and the effort of this entire country is really working, and we all are working from home, and I hope productively. So moving on, what does work from home constitute? So for example, you have been asked to move out to your home. You have either a company provided laptop. I know of companies who have asked people to take their office desktops and go to home and then connect and start working. Or probably you're working from unmanaged, bring your own device sort of things from home. Many of you now that broadband is available across the length and breadth of the country, are having Wi-Fi or maybe wireless dongles from where you're connecting. So apart from a good connection and a device, what else are required? And what do you really mean by working from home? So in these trying times, a typical enterprise, resources life would start with maybe a conference call, a video conference call, because managers, CEOs, they would like to see that people are, safe and they're happy at home and they're managing all their day-to-day responsibilities as well as working. So things like collaboration tools, for example, the traffic on platforms like Skype or Zoom or WebEx, it actually has skyrocketed in these recent times. Uh, Apart from that, you also need to carry on your day-to-day work, which means what? Which means you need to access all your required applications. Be it that the applications could be hosted on your company's on-premise data center, or some of the companies also have moved sizable application workload to public cloud, be it Azure, be it AWS or Google Cloud. You also need to access web-based applications as well as non-web-based applications. For example, things like files, files which are lying maybe in file shares, in common file servers in your office. How do you get access to it? So, variety of applications which has to be accessed from home. Uh, we are talking about cloud identity. For example, to provide access to any user. Uh, Earlier, when you are working from home, you have a certain layer of security around you. We know who you are and what you are kind of authorized for to access. But when you are doing the work from home, how do we maintain the same posture? So we need to identify you as the user, your device, and then by talking to federated solutions for identity and access management, like Active Directory or be it the new ones like Ping or Okta, we got to find out who you are, where you want to go, and make that connection in a very fast and secure manner. So user experience, as you know that a lot of these tools like collaboration tools, even working on things like file shares, SharePoint, etc. All of these are kind of bandwidth hungry. They're latency sensitive applications, and you are maintaining constant set of connections with these applications. So how do you manage that kind of scale and give a good user experience to all employees? Rapid deployment. I will share with you later in the presentation, but we have had to scale our cloud almost 4 to 8 times, depending upon which part of the world you're talking about, to handle this huge load which shifted from office to homes. And in the midst of all this chaos, security, and compliance people, risk people in company, they have to maintain, that there's no kind of, bad actors or, threats of malware getting downloaded, etc., on company machines. Uh, so all around visibility should be there, as well as troubleshooting with user issues. So these are kind of, six must-do steps to enable a successful work from home. What is the current network and security topologies in companies today to enable work from home? See, traditionally, as I mentioned to you, remote users used to connect to company applications uh, using VPN, right? So there are inbound gateways, which are essentially remote access servers like VPN gateways, which are put in a DMZ, and you also need to have surrounding environmental applications. For example, you need to have hardware like global load balancers, or you need to have anti DDoS protection. So there's a raft of security appliances which I'm showing over here in this inbound gateway that you need to traverse through to come inside your data center and access applications. And if certain applications have moved to the cloud, then you need to have something called site-to-site VPN. So all these hairpinning or tromboning of traffic from outside to inside, going out, coming back again, results in very, very poor user experience. Rarely will you find any person saying that, oh, I had a great user experience working on a VPN. Secondly, the VPN capacity which has been deployed in your companies has been capacitized to handle 10 to 20% of traffic. Typically, people like sales who are working from outside, or senior management who are traveling to other parts of the company, or other offices, or working remotely from hotels or airports, whatever. But now today, it has to handle 100% of user traffic. Is the VPN scaled for that? I don't think so. You need to add new licenses. You need to add more hardware. Where are these boxes built? They're in all probability built in China, where the supply chain is completely broken. So even if you have to order, new servers today, it would take at least 2 months, 3 months, even to get, deployed and sorry, delivered, and then you need to, kind of deploy them, rack stack, and then start using them. Nobody has that amount of time today. So with all this issue around, VPN infrastructure, what can be, possible alternative solution? So we come to our second poll. Over to you, Ria.
Sure, sir. For the next question for our attendees, we have: was your organization ready or equipped to handle this huge shift of workforce from office to remote working locations? The options are for sure yes, no, or maybe. The attendees have 20 seconds to answer the question. Mr. Banerjee, while we get the results, what do you think the results would look like?
I would say yes, because India is full of creative people and we have handled a lot of crisis events in the past. So I think we always rise up to the occasion. And I think it should be yes, but there could be challenges in handling things. Let me hear from the audience.
Sure. Sure, sure. We have the results with us. 39% say yes, 33% go with no, and again 28% say maybe.
There you go. So, we have a mixed bag over here. People think they're productive. There could be some issues. Well, it's not all that bad. Uh, so coming also, as I told you, the traditional IT landscape has been, kind of connecting all sorts of offices or factories, etc., to centralized data center locations over what we call as a hub and spoke network, which are essentially private networks built over MPLS or P2P kind of links, costly links taken from telcos to bring traffic all the way from branch users to data center, egress out to the internet and come back in. Or in the case of VPN, as I mentioned, how to bring traffic from outside inside the data center. Now that architecture today is proving to be challenging. So what Zscaler proposes and what we have been built up is we have a kind of a exchange. We call it as a digital services exchange. I'll come to the zero trust part maybe later, but essentially you can consider to be us to sit in the middle, between users and applications. So whenever any user is trying to access any application using internet, they first of all land up onto the closest Zscaler POP, available close to them. And Zscaler then does a couple of things. First, it authenticates you. It can also check your device posture because often we put a lightweight agent, which we call Z app, on laptops, or they can very well work on mobile devices which are supporting iOS or Android. And once we authenticate you, the device, and then we look into the company's policies. Okay, you are trying to access SAP. Are you a finance user? You are not. So, do you have access to SAP? No. So we'll drop the exchange there itself. So once we know that you are right user, right device, and have the access, authorization to the right application, then we make the connection in the cloud. And the way we do it, we essentially don't take the traffic down to the a company's network. We don't expose the company's network. That is another issue today with VPN. A VPN essentially gives inbound listening port. You get an IP, and essentially you get access to the company's network. So instead of going, let's say, to the right application, you can always do something like a port scan or NS lookup to find out what are the other IP addresses and applications which are available. And if you have bad intent in mind, so let's say infected machine coming in through VPN, then there could be a chance of attack spreading inside the company. So Zscaler does these connections in a zero trust way without exposing. So we make your data center applications or your private applications on Azure go dark. Their IPs are not exposed. And if something is not exposed, how can you go inside and create a nuisance? We offer two distinct products which are called Zscaler Internet Access (ZIA) and Zscaler Private Access. The Internet Access product is used to access internet as well as your SaaS applications. So, for example, most of the enterprises today have moved email from on-prem Exchange to Microsoft Office 365 or to Google Suite, that kind of stuff. Sales has moved sales process to Salesforce or Zoho. Similarly, there are other cloud applications now which are giving a lot of application, taking care of a lot of application landscape for companies. So ZIA comes in between and manages the traffic. And what it does essentially is it does two things. It looks at all the kind of bad threats all around. It does 100% SSL inspection. Most of your traffic today is anyway SSL encrypted. Gone are the days when you go to sites which are like HTTP. They're all encrypted today, and So you need to kind of detonate packets, open them up, and inspect for any kind of bad threats over there. And secondly, it also provides data leakage prevention. So if you have fingerprinted your data flows, your processes, we can find out whether company important information is leaking out to the internet or not. When it comes to the second product, which is called private access, that is for accessing applications where you own the namespace. For example, sap.yourcompany.com or something else. So whether those applications are in your on-premise data center or on public cloud VPC like AWS or Azure, we put lightweight connectors over here. And those connectors talk to Zscaler cloud and brokers or stitches connection between users and the applications without exposing any of these applications to the public internet. Some of the use cases of ZIA, what it does, so it does like threat prevention, as I mentioned, and it does access control. It can do simple URL filtering policy. It can also implement cloud firewall, and for your SaaS applications, it will also do QoS. For example, okay, company allows people to go to YouTube or to Facebook, but maybe only during lunchtime. Or we want to give 50% assured bandwidth to Office 365, for example. So this kind of QoS controls could be built in, and DLP prevents data from getting from going out. We are coming up with other technology areas also. For example, let's say banks, they have got very sensitive applications. They don't want users to get native access to the application and download data onto their machine or whatever. In which case, we kind of come in the middle and provide something called browser isolation, which prevents users from downloading, anything sensitive. In the paucity of time, I'm moving a little fast, so bear with me, please. Coming to the second product, which is private access. As I told you, there are connectors in front of applications, and there are agents sitting, in front or on your laptops, or you can even connect using browser. And Zscaler is a completely cloud-managed and cloud-hosted multi-tenant solution. We don't want to put any single piece of hardware or anything on your networks. So for ZPA, essentially, since we make your applications go dark, you can very well reduce the cost which you spend today in maintaining a VPN gateway or giving DDoS protection to your VPNs or anti-firewall. And things like network segmentation or NAC, which has always proved to be difficult, can be replaced by doing things like application segmentation. I'll tell you something which is quite interesting. Enterprises have hundreds of applications which are exposed to the internet. This could be in a development environment, test and QA or production. We often put up instances on Azure, AWS, and often we forget, once the project is over. But those are still applications exposed on the internet, and they present a way for bad actors to actually, come in and through that to, penetrate into a whole network. This solution gives you complete application discovery. It will tell you what are the various applications you have and which users are accessing what applications. You may as well find out that 30% of your applications nobody is even accessing. So why don't you take it down and thereby reduce some valuable cost for the business? So application discovery, availability, and as I mentioned to you, things like browser access or so the essence of the solution is that we want to give a zero trust network access, a zero attack surface, and thereby keep your application environment safe and secure. No point repeating, I mentioned the issues with traditional VPN. There are, in today's context with work from home, 100% of users, there is no way that we can order more devices, get them in, put them up. I think by the time we do all that, the crisis will be over. We could be going back to office. Hence, we come as a solution. Because we are completely cloud hosted and cloud managed, we can deploy in a matter of days. And I'll show to you two case studies in particular, and I'm sure Sridhar after me is going to speak about more. So these are European case studies, and some of them are actually they have gone public with their statements about how Zscaler has helped them. So they're available on LinkedIn if you choose to search for Zscaler, where we have ramped up users from let's say 5,000 to about 20,000 level 4 times in a matter of whatever a week, and then we are going further. This is I think one of the biggest German companies where we have ramped up, users to about 100,000 level, and they've got about 300,000 users, which they are bringing onto this platform, completely replacing their VPN stack. I told you about the, how bad actors take advantage of crisis situations. Just imagine people peddling a mobile app, which will help you to secure a corona mask or to get corona test kits. So these are nothing but trying to, exfiltrate data or to spread, malware. So be very careful. Don't get lured by all these fancy, websites or apps, and be very careful in what you click. These are very, dangerous times. The Zscaler cloud, we handle a huge amount of traffic. On a daily basis, we see upwards of 90 billion transactions, which incidentally is about some 14, 15 times of the number of Google searches which happens per day, which is about 6 billion the last time I checked. And by looking into all of this traffic, by looking into all the threats, about 120,000 unique updates goes into our cloud. And the beauty is because it's a multi-tenant cloud platform, the moment company A sees a threat, that threat, that intelligence is populated all throughout for the rest 4,000 companies on our cloud, so that every other company is protected from that same threat. These are the number of threats which we block on a daily basis. Scale. So these are the times when the world is working from home, and we all require bandwidth, and we all require scalability and secure and fast application usage. This is what the Zscaler cloud has seen. Our ZPA cloud has seen traffic growth hugely, and this is how we have been able to kind of scale the cloud up. 12 times in China, 6 times in Korea, 5 times in Europe, and this story continues. So to wrap it up, my section, essentially for successful work from home, you need to figure out which user, what application, and how they have to access. You need to think about speed. You don't have the luxury of time. You need to deploy thousands of users in days. You need to give a very good user experience, good collaboration tools for people to work together, and at the same time you have to think about all the imminent cyber threats and your compliance requirements. Finally, we provide excellent visibility of traffic and security for your security and compliance administrators, so they know at a very granular level, like for example users or devices, exactly what is happening, and they can take the remedial actions. Sridhar, I think it's over to you now.
Thank you, Sudeep. Okay, so I think Sudeep has given an excellent introduction, and it's a nice segue for me to take over from here. So why don't we just start with a short poll, Ria?
Sure, sir. For this poll, we answer our attendees what were or are the challenges faced by you when making this shift. The options are enabling secure, reliable access to all applications, rapid deployment of security solutions, cyber protection regardless of connection, device, and location, all of the above, or none of the above. Attendees again have 20 seconds to answer the question. While we get the results, Sudeep, if we can get your thoughts on these. I'm so sorry. Mr. Sridhar, if we can get your thoughts on this.
Ah, I would think all of the above, because
Sure.
each one of them comes with its own set of challenges. Some companies may have all, but quite a few will have a combination of these, which needed some attention at this point. So I would presume all of the above.
Sure. We have the poll answers with us. 7% go with enabling secure, reliable access to the application. 3% go with rapid deployment of security solution. 6% go with cyber protection regardless of connection, device, and location. 5% go with none of the above. And for sure, 80% go with all of the above.
Okay. Thank you. So I almost can become a fortune teller, I guess. But that's it. Let me just proceed with this. Um, yeah. So this obviously is stating what you're going through, but at the cost of being repetitive. Let me just say that while your infrastructure has moved from a corporate data center to co-location, then hosted environment, then having a private cloud which is hosted elsewhere, or moving to the public cloud, at the same time accommodating not just your BYOD devices and your visiting devices. You also have to look at what else is on the WAN, and what are the IoT devices that you've got to bring. And most important, how do you monitor, report, and analyze what is happening with these devices? The reason is today, more access happens from outside rather than from inside the offices. More access happens to applications which are off the network through a SaaS and not necessarily on the network. Most activity happens also off the traditional network and not on it. Most data is stored outside rather than inside, because most of the virtual machines are outside your office infrastructure. So I think the data center as the center of your IT universe has actually broken down into multiple parts. And this is a result of what you see on the left side of the screen. And the reason now manifests itself into challenges which go across this wide spectrum, what you just see on the screen now. At the bottom, you see that the traditional MPLS cloud that an organization had, which enabled point-to-point communication or a mesh network or a traditional hub and spoke network, but then you started to get your internet cloud, your application on the cloud, whether it is Office 365 or a Salesforce.com or Concur, etc., or your virtual machines which are hosted off any of the other cloud service providers. They could be the public cloud service providers or any of your other hosted environments that you might be having. And in the past, you had, like Sudeep pointed out, you probably had most employees on the network and probably about 10 to 20%, depending on the company, on the remote users. That was what your infrastructure was ready for. But today, you've got to accommodate all this, which essentially means we are moving to a boundaryless infrastructure. What this means is, in one of the recent Gartner seminars, we heard this from them as well. They said today that there is no perimeter. In the past, we used to talk about from the core to the perimeter. But now when everybody is on the internet, there is no perimeter. But you obviously cannot have a endpointless world. So the fact remains that the user identity now becomes the perimeter. The user, their identity, and the device that they access from becomes, every point from where they access becomes your perimeter, which means your attack surface, you stretch the organization network that far. And what does it do? It enables so many of these risk elements, and so many of the bad actors get attracted. Shadow IT has always existed, but the advanced persistent threats, or DDoS, third-party risks, spams, ransomware attacks, data security wherever you store them, because the data guidelines are becoming very, very strong world over, including in India. So I think data privacy is going to become an extremely important dimension for security players tomorrow, and being able to have the right kind of governance as well as the compliance model becomes very, very important in this changed environment. The need for a web proxy is now much more than ever, simply because, as we explained, there's enough web-based traffic. People access social media applications and SaaS applications from the organization's cloud itself. There are a whole host of security threats that come from your sophistication and the complexity of the web, and policy implementation across the network, data leakage, all of them need to be monitored. Besides, the implementation of the web access policy at a far more granular level is important today more than ever before. Second, we talked about zero trust briefly, so we've touched upon it. In the past, we were used to providing access. We said we will trust and then we will verify. But that has completely changed today. The entire identity dimension enforces upon us this concept called zero trust. Don't trust. Provide the access based on the policy, based on the identity. Only then you would be able to exercise control. And then you should be able to block zero-day exploits by analyzing unknown files for any malicious behavior. So as you begin to do this, you then start to look at the applications that you have. Do you have visibility of all the applications on your network at any given point of time? There's another point that I wanted to touch with respect to the VPN, which I think Sudeep spoke about earlier. In a virtual private network, what did you do? You provided access to the organization's network for a user based on the authentication that you provided them. Today, what you have to do is to provide access to the user only to the application that they have to access, and be able to deny access to them for an application that they should not be using. For example, if too much of YouTube is being used today through the organization network, you can imagine what's going to happen to the organization infrastructure and the bandwidth. So application visibility end to end, not just the user visibility, is extremely important. So it reinforces the point that recognizing a user on the network is an extremely important dimension today. Either it is for application visibility or for user and the user devices visibility. And for all this, hence, identity becomes your foundation parameter. Once you have the identity, providing this identity, and when you look at a solution that you need for your organization, I think Sudeep spoke about these two: the secure internet access, the CIA platform, the secure private access. One enables access of all the applications on the internet. The other enables access of applications which could be on your private data center. So these two put together provide you a very strong access control from the Zscaler portfolio perspective. But like I said, identity provides the users and applications with centralized single sign-on. That becomes paramount when you want to provide or not access into the network. CASP is another important solution that you need, because this is the one that helps you identify and prevent the data infiltration via the shadow IT players. Second, this is the only way for you to enforce internal and external collaboration policies. Third, should enable adaptive access controls, preventing the unwanted users and applications from accessing the cloud services. So this security access broker has to sit in between and be able to enforce the policy and regulate the usage. And then comes the Internet Gateway Service, which we spoke about a bit earlier. Now, all this put together, the managed SIM solution that you provide, that you start to use in your organization today, has to scale from the earlier dimensions of a traditional SOC, which you had on premises, where you had a thin layer of services wrapped around a bunch of technologies that you bought. Today's security operations control need to be able to encompass a much wider canvas, starting from not just recognizing the incidents and collecting the logs, but be able to act on them and provide the orchestration and automation layer at all the devices level, at a firewall level, etc. And then you need to manage or be able to analyze the user behavior. Now, the same access login, you would be able to find malicious activity, and that can snowball into a bigger crisis for the organization, and that can get identified only when you have the right user behavior analytics. User behavior analytics and the user entity behavior analytics are two parts to this solution. One can come with your SIM solution itself, and the other can come on top of that. This provides a very, very important layer of analytics based on which you would be able to redefine your policies. And then the endpoint detection and response, because endpoint is a key access layer for you into the infrastructure. That entire monitoring and management with all the technologies put together is the service that you should be looking at from the new age security operations play. And that's where Tata Communications comes into play as a managed security services solution provider for you. Let's be clear. Skills is going to be short. In the modern technology world, skills is always going to play catch up with technology. But some people are better equipped to handle than the others. That's one part. Second, the tools and environments are so diverse, and it's a big aquarium with fishes of all colors, shapes, and sizes. We need to be able to handle all of those, as well as be able to implement the policies, be able to collect the intelligence from various different sources, and be able to massage the data and act on them. So what is going to define this new age partner is centralized security management platform, which gives you the end-to-end visibility into all the activity, irrespective of whether they are endpoints or applications or the devices on your network, and they should keep your bad actors out. Second, keep up with rapidly evolving security threat vectors and the technology advancements, be able to collect the data, be able to act on them, and rapid incident response in the event there is a crisis. How fast they are able to act on it and how fast they're able to automate and bring back the normalcy into the infrastructure is a key determinant. And it doesn't stop there. It's about being able to bring containment of these threats for future. Build on this learning, and be able to build the containment policies. And then provide detailed reporting and analytical capabilities with the intelligence that is collected here, where human expertise, technology, and the seasoned experts come together into one platform and provide you a 24 bar 7 bar 365 solution. That is the strength that a new age security operations player will be able to provide to you. At this point, I want to stop, and Ria, can we just quickly conduct a poll, please?
Sure, sir. For this poll question, we ask our attendees, where are you in your journey of securing your network and end user devices for remote access users? The options are, we've got it covered, I may need help, or I am not sure. While we await the answers, Mr. Sridhar, our fortune teller, can we please have your thoughts here?
I think it's I may need help
All right.
because it's forever a journey, and I definitely know that various organizations are at varying degrees of adopting some of the later technologies as of today.
Sure. We have the results with us. 39% say I may need help, 20% say I'm not sure, and 21% say we got it covered.
Not bad, excellent. Let me just switch gears at this point, and I will explain to you about a case study. This is for a leading global beverages manufacturer, and we've got the acceptance from the customer. I can name them for you. This is for Tata Consumer Products Limited, which was earlier known as Tata Global Beverages Limited. So as you can see here, their existing architecture was the traditional network with hub and spoke model to support the global headquarters. They had a very, very large DC data center footprint, and they had access control to internal corporate applications. They already had an implementation of ZIA, the Zscaler Internet Access Tool was already implemented in some form. We had done a very, very small project for them in Australia. And of course, some of their bandwidth solutions across the globe were with us. So we got into this engagement with them in two phases. In the first phase, what they realized was that while they had the solution, they were facing challenges in the management and administration of the solutions. So we proposed and we implemented and managed the solution for them, not just in Australia, but we took stock of completely what was there in their infrastructure, and we started working on managing that. We also suggested a few add-ons to them as a part of their solution process. We gave them the cloud firewall as well as the cloud sandboxing features to protect the users in some of their branch offices when they decided to adopt distributed breakouts of the internet. Further, there was a second stage to this, where they were looking at a comprehensive network transformation. The simple reason is, like I said, they had a large data center footprint, but with their cloud first journey, they started to move many of their applications onto the cloud. And for all the users, and they started implementing applications like Office 365. So for all their users to touch the corporate infrastructure and then move out to any of these application hosted environment was becoming a complete drag on the network, and more important, the user experience was also very, very poor. So they were considering distributed internet breakouts and SD-WAN for their major offices globally. And to put their entire challenges in perspective, it needed a complete network transformation story followed by a complete security envelope. We also added to them the ZPA solution because they did have quite a few applications that were running on their infrastructure. I'm sorry, I think I moved up. Yeah, and quite a few applications that were running on their data center, which was hosted partly in their own data center, as well as some of them were in a hosted data center outside. So it was important for us to give additional solutions. We used the same ZApp agent, which was already being used by ZIA, which meant that from a single agent, we were able to control both of these. This provided them a fast, flexible, secure, and a future-proof solution that was capable of securing the remote access to all the resources. So from a scope of work perspective, we had the management and administration of the ZIA solution, implementation of the cloud firewall and cloud sandboxing. Third, implementation of the ZPA solution at the second stage for them, and management and administration of all the ZPA. In addition to this, from a pure services perspective, web gateway services based on ZIA plus our own services that we provide, and secure private access services, which were also based on ZIA and our services stack. This was what we did for Tata Global Beverages. This was another company which is Europe headquartered. The story is fairly similar here, and in the interest of time, I'm just going to skip some of these slides. But the story was somewhere similar. What we did in addition here was a very, very comprehensive SD-WAN implementation, a global hybrid WAN for 130 locations with 190 circuits, a majority of them which were in Europe. We managed this for them and managed authentication service for about 2,800 users, proxy for about 19,000 users. That was the comprehensive solution that we provided for the other customer as well. So having said that, this is my last slide. The 360-degree portfolio view encompasses the broad spectrum of all that you can think about from the security landscape. Starting from on the right side, network and infrastructure security, then looking at the entire threat management from a threat intelligence to getting the threat management and to now work on threat hunting and red teaming and deep and dark code monitoring. We provide the whole host of services. Then looking at content security and privacy from data leak preventions or secure private accesses, or getting into secure application management. And lastly, the entire risk and compliance umbrella. Our portfolio is complete, and Zscaler obviously is an important partner for us in providing some of these solutions for the new age, because they are a cloud native company, and in a cloud first world today, many customers find the application of these solutions very, very apt for them, and particularly considering the tough times that we are going through today, we are able to roll out these solutions in a far simpler manner. We've got our for India, we've got our cyber security response center based in Chennai, the primary center, and we've got the backup operations from Pune. So from two different geographical locations, we provide these solutions to customers, and we've got a wide pool of 300 plus security certified professionals with whom handling the network is safe for you. And we've got a host of tools that are deployed. Some of them are indigenously developed, and some of them are partnered with some of the major providers so that we are able to provide this comprehensive service to our customers. So as I close, may I ask one more time for a last poll, please?
Sure. For this last poll today, we have a question. Which of these offering would you have a requirement or like to learn more about? The options are secure internet access, ZIA, security incident and event management, cloud security or DDoS, managed UTM or SOC.
Yeah, we've clustered the others into the option called others, as you can see.
This is the last poll question for today. After this, we will be taking our Q&A round. I once again ask my attendees and request them to please drop in their queries and doubts in the box provided. So we have the answers and results with us. 31% say secure internet access ZIA, 15% say security incident and event management, 30% say cloud security or DDoS, 14% say managed UTM, and 10% say SOC.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you, Ria,
much,
for that.
speaker, for such wonderful presentations that we have had. I am taking another 10 seconds to begin with the Q&A round. So our speakers beginning with the Q&A round. Our very first question is if we can have both of your thoughts here. Do you think companies would invest in technologies like cloud computing once normalcy returns, taking into consideration the investment costs and future running costs?
Maybe I would go there for about 20 seconds. So, what is normalcy? And we don't know. We all want the world to come back to normal as it was before, but we don't know. Maybe these kind of times they become par for the course, or they become the new normal. What I am anticipating is that work from home, though not to this extent, but definitely would continue. Secondly, companies who used to have a BCP plan and drills, they have to do these things much more rigorously and actually try them out instead of keeping them as a paper document. Shida, you want to add anything to that?
Okay. Yeah, sure. Thanks, Sudeep. So just one more point to add to what Sudeep said. I think cloud is today not an option. It's probably a given that everybody would be adopting it. They would adopt all these cloud technologies. I think what will happen is a more calibrated planning, considering that such kind of pandemics could also affect us, or such kind of issues could also crop up. Just imagine for a moment if cloud technologies were not adopted. Today, we would all be not even productive to the extent that we are. It's because that all of us have adopted a cloud in varying degrees, we were able to transition and set ourselves into a working platform. So I would think cloud, definitely the technologies will get adopted. There will be a calibrated response, and every organization will be prepared for a higher degree in terms of remote workers. Because I just saw today a news item which said that uh, many of the salespeople and many of the branch operations of bank also, now we realize, do not need people on site. So it could bring down the cost of operations for various organizations, and I think it will be adopted. Back to you, Ria.
Sure. Sure, sir. One of our attendees, Mr. Iyer, wants to know if you can name your competitions in the Tata consumer engagement.
Oh, yes, Mr. Iyer, thanks for asking this question. Um, I don't know if I can publicly name those companies. I can say there was one leading uh, SI who was part of the Twitch. I think that's about the best I can give an indication of. They were there. Second is there was another security player who was into storage, compliance, and security, who's a next tier service provider, next tier reseller. And third, there was another service provider which also tried to pitch for this opportunity. So there were three competitors in this opportunity. And as you can see, we were not incumbent with them. They had worked with somebody and they had bought the ZIA for themselves much ahead of our engagement with them. Back to you, Ria.
Sure. So we have the next question with us. Mr. Rastogi, Himanshu Rastogi wants to know how long does it take to implement and stabilize the solution?
Well, I can take that as I showed, one slide where we have ramped up to 100,000, plus users in a matter of weeks. And the very idea of cloud is all about scale. So it actually does not need much time. Essentially, it starts with a small proof of value where we take maybe one location, maybe about 100 odd users, and we do application discovery to find out what applications are there. And then, the scale up does not, take, much amount of time. Maybe it can be done in matter of days or weeks.
Yeah, just to add to that, the collection of the data with respect to the users, as long as there is some form of directory services already implemented, job will be that much easier. Where a directory services implementation is not there, then the identity parameters will become difficult. So I would think that organizations which have a directory services implementation have a head start over the others. Once that is there, the ramp up can be in a matter of a few days. Back to you, Ria.
Sure, sir. We have the next question from one of our attendees. He asked, how is this solution different from the platform like Prisma from Palo Alto?
We are competition essentially. So Palo Alto is also trying to kind of gravitate from a on-premises appliance provider from next-gen firewall point of view, and they are trying to do that. However, one basic difference is that uh, they are trying to essentially leverage one of the public cloud providers and spin up virtual machines, virtual instances, and calling that a true cloud. I would like to contend that because we run a completely grounds up built cloud across the globe. So wherever the users are, they have the geolocation based fastest point of connect to Zscaler cloud. Secondly, we also have peering agreement with lot of providers. For example, Microsoft Office 365. So in a lot of cases, the traffic how it flows is it comes to Zscaler cloud, and then the second hop is the Office 365 tenant, and that happens over dark fiber on the same data center, and that adds hardly any latency, which can be the user can perceive that latency. So there are differences. A cloud, is a kind of generic concept, but what is a true multi-tenant, globally distributed cloud versus spinning up VMs on AWS or GCP? I don't think they're the same thing. Back to you.
Sure, sir. One of our another attendees, Anant, wants to know if there are.
Ria, I lost you.
Yeah, I think we lost you, Ria.
Yeah, I'm here. The next question is there a solution available for SME or SME professional firms? Our attendee wants to know what is the high level cost of implementation of Zscaler or similar platforms?
That would depend essentially on the size of the organization, number of users, and would be happy to engage in a one-to-one discussion or with Tatacom in the place. So please reach out to us and we'll take it up. Back to you.
Sure. We have next question coming in from Sri Kumar. He wants to know what is the prerequisite required for implementing ZIA and ZPA?
I think Sridhar made an excellent point. So you should have a directory service in place. So because we are not an IDP provider, we integrate with IDP providers like Active Directory or with Okta, Ping, etc. So that apart, not much of a requirement essentially. We just need to understand your data center footprint, application landscape, try a very quick POC or POV, what we call it, and then we are good to go. Back to you.
Sure, sir. The next question is what's the impact on latency of application? Does it increase the load on the on-prem DC loads in terms of the bandwidth utilization?
Okay, the very architectural part is that we take bandwidth off the on-premise data center. Uh, it is so Zscaler works very well in tandem with solutions like SD-WAN. So if you are doing local internet breakout from your branches, you don't need to hairpin the traffic back to data center for each and everything. Just understand this part. Today, enterprise which has already adopted public cloud SaaS apps like Office 365, their average internet traffic emanating from any location would be about 60%, which is internet bound, 40% which is bound for the data center applications. But today you are taking all of the 100% traffic back to your data center and then egressing out through a stack of security appliances and thereby increasing latency. By going direct to the Zscaler cloud, from the branches, you are taking load off from your current, MPLS links, and obviously taking load off from your security appliances at the data center. So definitely, it is not a question of adding more load; it's a question of taking off load. And because it's a cloud which can scale and handle, traffic, we don't add any perceptible, latency. So user doesn't understand, and our usual response is applications are working very fast, and it's almost like we are in an office with a high powered bandwidth. The same thing we are getting from home. Over to you, Ria.
That was a good question. Thank you for asking.
Sure. One of our another attendees, Manoj Dua, has presented his case. He wants to know if you can help him out further. He says, considering the situation, we had made a move a critical one on-prem application to the cloud infrastructure, that is AWS, with users connecting through RDP bound with endpoint MAC addresses. What further security measures can you suggest him in this scenario?
Not sure that I understood it. Maybe Manoj will be happy to take it offline. Ria, if you can route the question to me and Sridhar, we
Yes,
can get
please,
back to him.
because we will need a little bit more understanding and some depth of the implementation that you've done with the NAC. So a private conversation will help, Manoj. We'll connect.
Sure, sir, we can make that happen. We have another question from Suhas Dalvi. He wants to know, does Zscaler support agentless access to SSH, RDP, and VNC? Does it support Linux, automatic Wi-Fi security, and endpoint security support?
So Zscaler provides access either from an agent, or you can also access from browser. From an agent, you can access all TCP UDP applications like the ones you mentioned. But from the browser, it is all web-based application, be it HTTP, HTTPS on port 80, port 443.
To add to
Sure.
that, Suhas, there are a host of other endpoint solutions that can be added to this complementarily, and it entirely depends upon what you already have and what would you like to implement. Maybe with you also, if we can have a separate conversation and understand what is it that you're looking for, perhaps we'll be able to help together, Zscaler and us.
Sure.
Sure, sir. Considering that we're
Bacteria.
running out of time, we are quickly taking another last question. If we can have both of your thoughts here, what precautions can we take to safeguard company data that's currently being shared through multiple collaboration platforms?
Unfortunately, you cannot do much. So in my previous company, I've seen, for example, sales heads, they're running the entire sales communication on WhatsApp, which includes go-to-market strategy for new products, current quarter, how much has happened, product-wise, geographical distribution. All of that is happening on a public part, and anybody can take that and forward to any other source. So it is vitally important today that when we use cloud applications, we should use cloud applications which the enterprise is licensed to use and also have proper security, like for example, CASB or DLP, essentially to monitor exactly who can post what. So, for example, can you go and only view information vis-a-vis posting information? Can you go to, let's say, company sanctioned box or other file sharing application, and then you would be allowed or disallowed to send out files from there. So these kind of controls are getting vital day to day because the world has opened up and people are working from everywhere and whatever using all kinds of platforms. So having a proper CASB, DLP along with your proxy and 100% inspection of internet traffic is a vital order of the day. Sridhar, you would like to comment on that?
Yeah, just endorsing what he said. The issue is, as Sudeep pointed out, many haphazard communication have begun to happen. And I know of some startups which are running their entire operations only by conveying everything on WhatsApp, and they send images on WhatsApp, little realizing that this is such a confidential information. And then one of my previous employments, I had a customer come back to me and say that somebody opened up their mobile phone data and they shared it directly with the customer. So it is possible for leakage from various forms, and it requires a complete thought process on who has the rights, how much, how far, from which device, from which network. All that kind of a thought process need to be done, and it's a thorough bottoms up exercise that needs to be implemented. So the same user, for example, various life sciences and healthcare research companies do not allow the same level of access from a device which is their IT operations maintained versus same PC at home versus a PC at home for the same user. So it requires a lot of thought, and it's a complete bottoms up exercise that needs to be done. And of course, companies spend a lot of time and energy depending on how much do they want to safeguard and what is the level of data, how much of IP do they have, which they would like to safeguard in those fields. Yeah, back to you, Ria.
Sure, sir. Thank you, Mr. Sridhar. Thank you, Mr. Banerjee, for such insightful session and the answers that you've given us. I'm equally grateful for all our attendees for being with us today. I must say, we had a great session there. Thank you so much and have a nice day ahead. And most importantly, stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.